Hey, pull up a chair. Oh, I'm so glad we're together. And this is cheating. I'm a lawyer, but I'm emotionally incontinent, which is really a problem if you're a trial lawyer. And when I heard Will and Pamela's story, and boy, didn't that just have something well up inside of you? That's the presence of God. That when you feel these emotions, it's because God is doing something in you. You're connecting in a deeper place. And this is Romans 5. He says that we go through suffering so it will produce endurance, and then that endurance will produce character, and the character will produce hope. And what I want to do is an Enneagram 7. I want to skip right from this, all the stuff that makes me sad, right to the hope part. How many of you are like that? Yeah, I'm with you. You're my people. Let's crowd surf. But I want to go from realizing we need to go through some really difficult stuff because God wants to produce something valuable stuff, to produce character stuff, to produce hope. And I think there's something beautiful. We understand whose country we're living in. And I don't mean just the United States. I mean, this is God's kingdom right here. And I'm telling you, Reno is a really close place to my heart because I was about to make a really, really bad decision. And a guy 44 years ago named Randy Seaver, who lives in this community, stepped into my life. He was hope on wheels to me. He just said, I'm with you. And it changed everything. This is what God did. He stepped into humanity. Of all the names, he could have called him George, but they called him Emmanuel, God with us, so that we could experience what we really need. Now, some of you have asked me, I was in the entryway here, and you're like, Red Sox? I don't get it. I'm not a Red Sox fan. I've never been to a baseball game. We evidently have a major league team in San Diego. Who would know? But my neighbor, Carol, was a huge Red Sox fan, and we knew she was going to be in heaven by the end of the week. And so I made a deal with her 9 years ago that I would wear her Red Sox hat for the rest of my life and represent the Sox here on earth. But in exchange, every time Jesus walks by, she needs to mention my name. There's that verse that said, I knew you not. I'm like, Carol. So I want you to know why you're doing what you're doing. Did you know in the 3 years of public ministry Jesus had, he asked 307 questions and he only answered 3? Is that crazy? If you're kids, if you're ever tired of answering questions, say, I only answer 3 a year. So don't call on me. The first one was this. He said, what's the big commandment? It was a lawyer like me trying to set him up. And he said, love God with your heart and your soul and your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. The second time he answered a question, they said, will you teach us how to pray? And boy, he taught Pamela how to pray. Just God, right? In the third one, it was in front of Pontius Pilate. And he said, so I hear you're the king of the Jews. And he said, yes, I am. That's whose kingdom we lived in. I am not only a lawyer, I'm the consul general for the Republic of Uganda. Is that crazy? I'm not like the U.S. ambassador to Uganda. I'm the Ugandan guy to the U.S. I walk into embassies like, where's the Ugandan guy? I'm like, I'm the Ugandan guy. Mind blown. And if you come to my house, the flag of Uganda flies over my house. Isn't that awesome? It looks like Germany got together with a peacock, but that's it. And we fly under the banner of Christ. And it changes everything, or it changes nothing. It can't just change a couple things. Suffering produces endurance. Endurance produces character, and character produces hope. Don't skip the hard part. I get it. And then God will sometimes give you the hard part. Sometimes it's a spouse. I'm the hard part of that marriage. Could you imagine being married to Tigger? I'm like, hi. This is sweet Maria Goff. We could not be more different. She has what's called extreme social anxiety. She thinks having me in the room's a lot of people. We've been married for 35 and a half years. We've only gone to dinner 3 times. One of those was a Taco Bell. I'm not kidding. I get around you guys, I'm like, people! When we got married, they said the two will become one, and she thought we were going to become her. Heck no! But here's the deal. I'm not trying to be like her, and she's not trying to be like me. We're trying to be like Jesus. And together we live in his kingdom. We need to let the suffering produce endurance. And the endurance produce what? Character. And the character produce what? Hope. That's it. That's what I want you to think. When you're stuck in traffic in that parking lot, my suffering is going to produce endurance. That's a horn. Don't use it. And the endurance is going to produce character, and the character is going to produce hope. And what we do is just express that in all the different ways. This is Paul to Timothy: fan the flame of this unique gift that he's given you. It turns out I know how to write books. I actually got a call from the Missoula Police Department. They said, "Are you Bob Goff?" I'm like, maybe. I'm like, why are we talking? And they said, there's actually been a drive-by shooting. I'm like, oh heavens, like, what's up? They said, don't worry about it, everybody's okay. But the person they were shooting at, it didn't hit them. It hit the book they were holding. My typos stop bullets. In your face, Hemingway. Like, what I want to do is ask this question. If suffering can produce endurance, endurance is going to produce character, and character can produce hope, then we need to answer this question. It's Hebrews 11. Faith is confidence in what we're hoping for, assurance in what we haven't seen yet. Man, I had boys in high school. I didn't know if they'd ever graduate. You know, the thing I was hoping for was graduation. What I hadn't seen yet was homework. They said there was none assigned for 4 years. Like, full Pinocchio. I know what I wanted. I wanted a date in the worst way. In junior high school, I just wanted a date. It never happened, but I thought, well, certainly in high school it could happen. And 4 years of high school, they kept me back a grade. I just wanted a date, and it never happened then. I squeezed 4 years of college into 5. I still had the same ambition. I just wanted a date. Didn't seem too much to ask. With a face like this, though, I could understand my impediments. Well, I'm in my second year of law school, and Maria walks in the room. And guys, you know when you see the girl of your dreams, you're like, yes, you will be mine. She's been in the room like 3 minutes. I'm picking out names for our kids. We're going to make them and we're going to name them. And well, I asked her out on a date, and she said no too. But I knew she was going to this Young Life camp. It was called Oak Bridge. And she was going to be the girls' work crew boss. So she got 10 high school girls to help. So I got 10 high school guys. I'm no dummy. I wanted to get adjacent to her. In the first night at camp, this elderly woman, her pacemaker stops. She face plants in the spaghetti. She's gone. Like, go to Jesus, out of here. But I knew how to do CPR, and I got her on the floor. I am pressing on her chest. I am blowing into her wrinkled lips. It was not the first kiss I was hoping for. And she lived like full Lazarus. I'm like, yeah. And Maria thought, this guy is not much to look at, but he could be useful in a pinch. I want you to know what you're hoping for. If you haven't seen what you're hoping for, what is it's going to happen? Suffering is going to produce endurance. Endurance is going to produce character. Character is going to produce hope. Don't skip the process. What I want us to do is figure it out. And if we just go to Happy, which is this is actually a city in Texas. Like, I found my home. I was actually driving down the interstate. I saw this, so I had to hang a right. And I went, this is the downtown Happy. There's a Happy Center. That would be where I live. On the left, there's a drugstore. That's where some of you live, to medicate some of the anxiety in your lives. It got me kind of thinking about these cities with crazy names. There's actually a city in Arizona, and the name of the city is Y. I bet they named it in August. So why? So 784 miles from Happy to Y, and there's no shortcuts. Suffering produces endurance. Endurance produces character. Character results in hope. And if we get that part right, we just don't want to get distracted along the way, because I promise you this, Satan doesn't want to destroy you. He wants to distract you, right? Destruction is one and done. Like if you're out, then you're done. But if I could get you distracted, then she'll be thinking, what the heck? And then he's thinking, what the heck? And it'll metastasize in the worst way. So I want us to just see what it is that's distracting us. When Maria and I got married, we had a fight. It was her, this is not COVID. Don't get one of these in your nose. Like, we got in this fight, and it was all her fault. And it started out so small. Okay, can you relate? It started so small, and then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, it got big. This is what happens in our lives. What we'll do is Satan will use the small things in our lives to avoid the big things in our lives. And what he'll do is the converse. He'll take the big stuff like faith and grace and acceptance and love, and he'll make them from big things to really small things. 1 Corinthians 13:13. It says this, that the only three things that are going to remain at the end of the day, faith, hope, and love. And if I was everything evil, what I would do, I wouldn't attack the stuff that's going to be here again and gone tomorrow. I'd attack the only three things that God said will always be here. He'll attack your faith, he'll attack your hope, and he'll attack your love. He'll start replacing them as they'll get distracted. Since I was here last, I bought this camp where Maria and I met. Young Life put it up for sale. I bought it. I'm like, what a bad idea. So it was right before COVID. It's like empty. Suffering produces endurance. Endurance produces character and tons of debt. And character and tons of debt produces hope. Like what I was doing was I had this beautiful ambition and it just didn't work out. But I got a pickup truck because I got horses now. I don't know anything about horses. I couldn't tell you what end to put the hay in. But I got this pickup truck, and I went to the store actually to buy one. I looked at one in the parking lot. It didn't even have carpet in it, so I said, I'll take it. And then I got to the pay window. They told me how much a truck costs. I'm like, oh, heck no. So I got one on Craigslist, 150,000 miles. This thing just worked. And now I've got the carbon footprint of Delaware. That's just amazing. Well, I got in this truck, and I was feeling kind of manly, and I got in, and it smelled like soap. And I was like, ooh, maybe beef jerky, nachos, maybe, but not soap. It was just not the whole vibe. So I was just distracted. So I rolled down all the windows, and I thought, I can just blow the smell away. And I get home, and it's gone, and I go inside. The next morning, I go out to my car, I open up the door, and it smells like soap. I'm like, no, totally distracted. Now, I was supposed to go to Los Angeles and marry two people. Actually, I was going to officiate. You can't marry two people. That's a felony. So So I thought, I'm going to cook it out. So I turned up the heater all the way to the top. 3 hours up, 3 hours back, totally pitted out my suit, but it was gone. I was like, yes! And the next morning, I woke up, I got out to my car, I opened the truck door, and it smells like soap. I'm like, no! I don't even remember driving to the car upholstery store. But I got there evidently, threw the credit card and said, just change out the interior. It was going to cost me more than the truck did. But I'm like, make it leather, whatever. I just can't smell like soap. And 4 days later, I got back and I opened the door and it smelled like dead cow and soap. And I'm like, no! And I was pounding just thinking, suffering produces what? Endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. I'm pounding on the steering wheel saying, I'm so distracted, what's going on? And I reach up to get my sunglasses out, and I pull down 25-cent air freshener. You guys, I spent $4,000 fixing a 25-cent problem. And I think there's just something for us all to just say, we are spending a weird amount of time trying to fix some stuff that God said that the suffering, let that produce the endurance that'll produce the character, that'll produce the hope. If we get that right, you just got to figure out what's distracting you. Yeah, there's something beautiful. If you see me speaking somewhere, I'll have a music stand oftentimes. There's nothing on the music stand. What I'll do is if there's someone distracting me, if they're like wiggling their leg or something, I'll just put the music stand between me and whatever's distracting me. Isn't that crazy? I'm not the problem I'm the guy with the problem. They're not, they're just nervous. And so, what I want you to do is put Jesus in between you and anything distracting you. And I think that's what we want to do. We only have a little bit of time to figure this stuff out. I have this experiment going to do. How old are you going to live to? I know you don't know, but depends what kind of driver somebody else is today. What do you think? 80. Okay. I'm giving you 83. All right? You're welcome. But that ain't happening. All right. I'm 63. I'm one of those old people. Yeah. So that already happened. You guys, this is what we've got left. Right now, I eat Pop-Tarts. I love those things. So we've only got a little bit of time to figure it out. Don't take a shortcut from happy to why. Know that the suffering, the difficult things, we just got to know what's distracting us so we can bring it to Jesus. And to say, can you help me figure this thing out? We called this we used to call these Russian nesting dolls. Now we call them Ukrainian nesting dolls. But I'm a really insecure guy. Would you guess that? I'm super insecure. I'm not saying when I'm 8 years old. I mean right now. Isn't that crazy? I'm a happy guy. What I did when I was 8 is what you did when you were 7 or 8 years old. I had some crazy stuff happen, and you did too. And I made up a story. The story I made up to deal with the life stuff that I couldn't get my arms around is that everyone will leave me. It wasn't true, of course, but it felt true, and I didn't have the emotional tools to deal with the crazy that was happening. So I made up a story, everyone will leave, and then I made up rules to surround the story. What I did is I said, since everybody's going to leave me, my rule is going to be this: I'm not going to go deep with anybody. And you know how I'll avoid going deep with anybody? What I'll do is I'll just be the funny guy. And if I'm funny, I won't have to feel the pain of your rejection because I kept it surface level. I was snorkeling in the top 2 feet of our relationships because I was always this guy, just happy, whatever. But then these rules ended up me being 20 years old and not having any deep relationships with anybody. Why? Because I wasn't doing any diving. That's where all the gold is. It's down at the bottom. And so what happened in this faith in Jesus, I just started figuring out what's underneath the thing. And this is the message of the gospel of Christ. You get to just bring all of this stuff to him. Just and throw it at his feet. And to say, I'm going to take what I don't understand about me, and I'm going to take that kind of suffering, and I'm going to let it produce endurance that's going to result in character, that's going to result in hope. And that means I don't need to be this guy anymore. I can actually be authentic. So what's the story you made up? And what's the rule that you made? It was scaffolding at one point in your life, but all of a sudden it just started kind of getting in the way. Some of you are still asking for permission to live your life, and you already have permission to live your life. I want you to just do the things that bring you joy, that falls within these beautiful guardrails that God said about authenticity and love, and to not be one prideful about why you do, and not take the people that God made who are different than you and then to just be waving bony fingers in their directions. What I want to do is come up with a less creepy explanation for people that do things I don't understand. I was actually speaking at a fairly large church, and there was one seat available right there. And a woman came a little bit late, and she walked down the aisle. I could kind of see her coming. And I'm not afraid of very many things, but I got this thing about snakes. This woman had a 7-foot boa around her neck. I was like, what I've been trying to do is think of the least creepiest explanation for whatever's going on. What's easy to do is come up with the most creepiest explanation. Just say this is great. But what if we right-size this? You know the least creepiest explanation? I just assumed she didn't know. I thought she was walking in from the parking lot. She ducked her to a branch, wrapped around. I'm like, I'm not telling her. That's being a little bit more generous. It's being a little bit more Christ-like. And that's going to produce a little bit of anxiety. But let's let that suffering produce endurance and have it produce character and result in hope. There's a friend of mine, his name is Ed Eason. He's a pretty good guitarist. And in his 20s, he met this rising country western star. And her name is Carrie Underwood. And Ed and Carrie have been going around the world melting people's faces, for the last 25 years together. And they were pulling through San Diego, and Ed called up. He said, "Do you want a ticket to the show?" I'm like, "Yes," because it was sold out, and I could afford one anyway. And so there was one at will call for me, but there was an envelope. It said Bob. I felt like Willy Wonka. I'm like, yes. So I get the ticket. I'm going upstairs kind of instinctually, and I get to the top of the stairs, and the guy looks at it with his flashlight. He says, "Oh, buddy, you're in the wrong section." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, the next stop's the roof." He said, No. This ticket will get you onto the main floor. I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" And so I run down 2 stairs at a time to the main floor, and there's another guy there looking at the ticket, and he says, "Oh, you're in the wrong section." I was like, darn it, I knew it. I didn't want to go up those stairs, but I could use the steps. And so I was about to turn around. He said, No, you don't understand. This ticket will get you into the mosh pit. I'm like, not sure what that is. But like, Jesus, take the wheel, right? So I run down to the mosh pit. I got everybody by a decade in there, and they're ricocheting off each other. And 2 guys look at my ticket. They talk to each other. They look at it again. They say, "Do you know what you have here?" I'm like, "No." He said, "This is an all-access pass. You can go anywhere with this thing." I thought I'd go to Carrie's bus and make a sandwich. Too much? I want you to know you have all access. That's the message of the gospel of Christ. You get to bring the real version of you. You get to lay at his feet all the broken versions of you, the ones that you made up to deal with the pain. And what he wants you to do is take that suffering and turn it into endurance, and let that turn itself into character, and let that result in hope. You're not hopeful just because you're a happy guy. That's this guy. I'm doing it because I know how to get from happy to why. And if we figure out that, we've got like everything nailed. And you know what God will do? He'll use the most unlikely people to get us there. It's crazy. I teach at Pepperdine Law School. Could you imagine me teaching for the last 15 years at a top-tier law school? I'm like, everybody passes the bar. You get a car. You get a car. You get a car. But I also teach at San Quentin. I'm there up there every 3 weeks. And the difference between my guys at Pepperdine and the ones here, they don't graduate. And I got invited by some of these guys to pitch batting practice. They have kind of a humble, diamond in the middle of the yard. And I got an arm. It's not big, but it's, I can throw the ball pretty good. And so I got to batting practice, and I threw the ball to this guy, went over the plate, and just crushed it. It was like a, prison break. And I threw the next ball, and he just knocked the cover off that ball. And then you know what he did? He started crowding the plate. That just pissed me off. So I thought, I'm going to brush him back. And so I threw the ball as hard as I could, hit him right in the head. Oh, people, do not hit a guy who's in for what he's in for in the head with a ball if he's holding a metal bat. Right? And we both had a decision to make. He had to decide if he was going to charge the mound, and I had to decide if I was going to run away like a 9-year-old girl, and I decided I was. And what we did instead is we had a conversation. What if you have that conversation with God? What if you say, I'm going to take all the versions of me, all of the pain that's happened to me in my life. I'm going to just talk about it in real terms, not in flowery, big stuff, but just Pamela's prayer. God. Trusting that he's going to take our suffering, he's going to turn it into endurance. So let the endurance turn into character, and let the character result in hope. And I think if we get that thing right, we get Jesus. And I want you to know, you have an all-access pass to that. You just need to stop being distracted by all the stuff going on around you so you can start saying, God, what's going on within me? Now, for some of you, this resonates. Some of you say, I get it about Jesus. Other of you came because you thought there was free pizza. There's not. But no matter where you are, whether you've been hanging out with Jesus for 20 years or 20 minutes, or you just came by, like, we each got about this amount of time to figure it out. And I don't think we lead people to Jesus. I think Jesus leads people to Jesus. But if you resonate with some of those ideas, find somebody here on the church staff, find somebody out in the parking lot. And it's just ask the question, like, what's the deal? Like, how do I make sense of this? You don't need a big flowery prayer. Just say, Jesus, I'm in. Is there more to your faith than that? Heck yeah, don't worry about it. That'll come. But to say, I got a period of time before I meet you face to face, I'm going to do something. In between now and then, I'm going to let the suffering in my life produce hope. And I'm not going to skip over the middle part. Let me pray for us. Jesus, you've been eavesdropping on this morning. You've been eavesdropping on our whole life. Give us the guts and the grit, not to just agree with you, but to do it. Let the suffering in our life produce endurance. Let the endurance produce character, and let the character result in hope in you. In your strong name, amen. Thanks, you guys.